a follower of Jesus who has victory over alcoholism and people-pleasing pride. I smile because I have prayed to the Lord. I wondered the first time that I would be able to say that. And so it begins.
Yes.
All right. My life started out as a wonderful adventure filled with family, faith, and fun. My brothers and I were taught Christian values as early as I can remember, and we were doubly blessed to have grandparents on both sides to pray over us, and give us all the love that they had as well. As a child, I was independent and stubborn, and didn't always have the best judgment when it came to dangerous or difficult activities. I definitely had my share of injuries growing up, and the worst thing someone could tell me was that I couldn't do something, as that would just ensure that I did it. I discovered I had a heart for helping others, whether they were humans or animals, and I loved being nice to everybody, whether they looked like me or not. We moved around so frequently that I only started and finished at the same elementary school once. But as a fun-loving child, I thoroughly enjoyed all the new experiences. As much as my father loved the wide open spaces and changing horizons, my mother craved stability and comfort. Behind closed doors, these two contrary ideals clashed. But my parents never fought in front of us. So when they told us when I was 7 years old that they were getting a divorce, we were stunned. I was literally 7 when I learned what it meant to feel your world stop turning. While growing up, to say I was a daddy's girl would be a massive understatement. He was the one that taught this little tomboy to ride horses and to be fearless in going after what I wanted. He gave me hard work to do, and then he praised me when I completed it. I suffered from awful night terrors as a child, and when they would happen, the only way they would go away is to go in and tell my parents about them. Of course, they would get frustrated with me, like any parents would, but Dad said I could lay down on the floor beside his side of the bed, and I could hold his hand while we prayed the terror away until I could sleep again. It worked every single time, and I felt so secure because of it. So to see him drive out of our driveway and not be able to stop him literally changed my life in an instant. I felt the air escaping from my body as my heart shattered. Our nomadic ways discontinued after he left. We had to skimp and we went without some creature comforts, but my mother had always been a wonderful steward of our finances, and she taught me how to make the simple look beautiful. But as I got further into elementary school, I started to feel the sting of having off-brand and second-hand everything. I became painfully aware of not only not fitting in, but not having my entire family to come home to and to get renewed and recharged with. I did not mind being the new or the different kid though. I just learned early that blending in and keeping a low profile were great tools to have in the new kid tool belt, and I used them whenever possible. The next 5 years brought my dad in and out of my life intermittently, which only fueled my inward turmoil. I learned in those early years to continue to rely on God and the family that I had left in the area, but I also learned how to hide my pain behind a smile or by remaining quiet. The summer before my 5th grade year, my parents decided to give their marriage one final try. And my 2 brothers and I moved to Utah to a beautiful working cattle ranch that I thought looked like it came out of a fairy tale. I was surrounded by horses that I could ride whenever I wanted. I could work alongside my father again. The family was back together. We were reunited, and it felt so good. My new school presented new challenges, though, arising from me being in a tiny minority group. But I learned that being on the outside wasn't the end of the world, and that people are drawn to authenticity the underdog, breaking down barriers, and I was happy for the first time in years. Sadly, the fairy tale was about to end. While my father was gone one day, my mother packed our things up and told us that we were leaving back to Kansas. She gave my older brother an impossible choice to either stay with our dad or come back to Kansas with us, and he chose to stay with Dad. I was devastated all over again, and that old familiar feeling of death in my heart came back with a vengeance. My younger brother and I did not get a choice to stay. Once again, I was getting my heart ripped out as a result of not only losing my dad and my brother, but losing my family unit as I had once known it. Upon returning to Kansas, I enrolled in yet another elementary school and began caring for my brother in the evenings when Mom had to work. This upheaval created a coping mechanism in me in which I became hyper-aware and overly adaptable to what people's opinions of me were. I found that their praises temporarily filled a void in my life that my parents' divorce and separation from my older brother had created. Escapism became another coping skill that I became quite proficient in. After discovering a talent and passion for playing basketball and performing in front of people, I found that it was easy to lose myself in the rigors of practice instead of dealing with the mounting hurt that I was holding inside. My faith remained an integral part of my life through this time, but I now had a different view of God than the one that I had learned earlier in life. God was now scary and inconsistent, and I could not understand why he would allow me to feel such pain and uncertainty as a child. My mother married a hard-working Christian farmer when I was in the 6th grade, and I finally had stability. My stepdad stepped in and raised us kids as his own, and he was a godsend in so many ways. I finished high school with honors, and after graduation, I chose to go live with my father instead of going to college where I had scholarships waiting, much to my mother's dismay. It was while working with my father on an Arizona cattle ranch that I met and married the man that would become the father of my 3 beautiful boys, and with whom my father abandonment issues and people-pleasing tendencies would play out in real time, especially after our 3 boys came along less than 4 years apart from each other. Although we had many wonderful experiences living an adventurous and untamed life in remote and rugged locations, eventually our unresolved anger and inability to humbly accept and work on our character defects took its toll. After 11 years together, we divorced, and I ended up in my hometown as a single mom with no college education and no idea of what to do next. I did have the church to fall back on and was blessed to be a part of the worship team until my divorce was finalized. And then I was asked to step down because of my newly single situation and the appearances that it would give. This low point was not rock bottom, however. Definitely worse things were waiting up ahead. I can easily sum up the next 10 years of my life as the decade of the world. Worldly goals, worldly relationships, worldly excess, worldly interests, and even a worldly view of God all eventually took a toll on me and my precious boys. I was still a Christian, and I attended church with my sons, but I also started a slow fade into the world, one seemingly harmless step away from God at a time. Looking back, I can see now that I was a living example of 1 John 2:15 through 17, which says, "Do not love the world or the things in the world. If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. For all that is in the world, the desires of the flesh, the desires of the eyes, pride and possession, not from the Father, but is from the world. The world and its desires will pass away, but whoever does the will of God lives forever. I was fortunate to emerge out of my worldly decade alive and even with some worthwhile accomplishments, but I was definitely not unscathed. I had realized 2 personal dreams by graduating college with a bachelor's degree and playing on the basketball team all 4 years. I had also built a successful, albeit small-time, singing career that kept me pleasantly busy. I had provided for my children the best I could and tried to keep the church going a somewhat regular event. However, in that time, I also managed to acquire a second ex-husband, which further scarred my sons. I used my God-given musical gifts to entertain the world instead of an audience of one. I missed my son's important functions because I was spread too thin. But most damaging of all, I learned during this time that alcohol could temporarily numb the pain when things got too tough. This 10-year time span would later end up filling many sheets of paper when I finally had to take an inventory of where I had been. There were an incredible number of tears produced, so many tears of regret. I felt like my heart was breaking again when I did this inventory, but I knew that this time it was breaking to let the healing begin. In 2011, I married a wonderful Christian man named Dwayne. And yes, for those of you playing along at home, that is marriage number 3, and he is my final answer. And we set about the business of raising our blended family of 7 teenage kids. We certainly had love and wisdom on our side, but when the storms of the teenage years hit, I quickly found out that I had let my house that God built fall into disrepair. Old ghosts of abandonment, self-pity, and selfishness serenaded me, and I chose to listen to them, even while trying to drink them away in private. Life became a vicious cycle of calm to crisis to catastrophe to checking out to coming down to promising myself and others that it wouldn't happen again. Looking back, I see I didn't have a problem quitting drinking. I quit very easily and frequently. Instead, I had a problem with the prideful thinking that I could beat this disease on my own and that I didn't need to get 100% real with God. I began a slow downward spiral that ravaged my body and my mind, and it left me a hurting, prodigal daughter in desperate need of help. My rock bottom finally found me, as rock bottoms always do, and it could have had deathly consequences. I decided then and there I was done with the madness. I was through pushing the limits and being functional, but not being present. I called an outpatient program the next morning and signed up for much needed help. The program is 2 hours away, and I faithfully attended meetings 3 times a week for 3 hours at a time for 9 months straight. It was a traditional 12-step program with cognitive therapy, and it was very intense, expensive, and inconvenient. My husband encouraged me every step of the way. He even attended meetings with me, and I know he was sent to me by God at exactly the perfect time in my life. It wasn't until about 4 months into treatment that I finally worked up the nerve to set foot in a Celebrate Recovery meeting, being held in my hometown at my home church, no less. Now, walking into new and different surroundings didn't faze me. That's how I grew up. But walking into Celebrate Recovery meeting in my home church and facing that embarrassment, that made my stomach do flips. I remember how the Lord had put a burden on my heart heart for Celebrate Recovery the previous year while I was still in the height of my addiction, and how in true Jonah fashion I ran from the call. The questions of, what will people think when they know the real me? And where do I even begin to rebuild relationships that I have destroyed? Sat heavy on my spirit. And it was then that the Lord whispered to me, Matthew 11:28, "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." Although the AA program and a quote-unquote higher power had gotten me to this point, it was only then, walking into this church, that I realized the AA program could only go as far as the world's understanding of my disease. See, what I needed was the great physician to clean house and to finish the job of healing and restoration for my disease. For me, the very first step of Celebrate Recovery holds a very special place in my heart, because admitting my life was unmanageable was one thing, but reading that first principle brought me to tears as it perfectly described my addiction experience. And we said it tonight. Romans 7:18. "For I know that good itself does not dwell in me, that is, in my sinful nature. For I have the desire to do what is good, that I cannot carry it out." That single decision to enter these church doors, not as a worship team member or even as an upstanding member of society, but rather as a daughter of the King, clothed in filthy rags made up of worldly sins, changed my life. It opened up a world of honesty, realness, and healthy coping skills that I had so desperately been needing my whole life. Only after I swallowed my pride and told God I was done doing things my way, I was through having one foot in the world and giving any allegiance to the darkness around me, that I began to see a marvelous plan God had in store for my life and for my family's lives. Every component of Celebrate Recovery, including and especially the step study that I completed, builds on the previous victories. And it's beautifully crafted to strip away our different dependencies on the world until all we are left with is the knowledge that we cannot play God, and we were never meant to. Being able to stand and name Jesus Christ as my higher power has increased my humility and given new meaning to 2 Corinthians 12:9. "My grace is sufficient for you. My power is made perfect in weakness." Amen. I show that verse every single day. I had to give up my old life and lay it down at his feet. And I don't just mean singing in a rock and roll band or the crazy lifestyle that goes with it, or being overly concerned with what people thought of me. I had to admit that stuffing down the hurt instead of dealing with it, not standing your ground for fear of not being liked, and searching for relief at the bottom of a bottle were all terribly destructive ways of coping with life and the storms that surely come with it. I have learned instead to bravely, and oftentimes brokenly, look at the storms with an honest willingness to give and receive grace-filled freedom. Celebrate Recovery reminds me daily that we need to offer ourselves, others, and even God forgiveness. I had not thought that would ever be the case, me forgiving him, but that realization was a major turning point in my recovery. God doesn't need our forgiveness for his salvation or power, but he needs our vessels empty of old hurts so that he can fill us up entirely with his perfect healing love. My walk with the Lord since being in Celebrate Recovery has taken a turn for the unbelievable. I can humbly say that today my walk with the Lord is all-sustaining and all-satisfying. I am living proof of Deuteronomy 33, which says, "God, your God, will restore everything you lost. He will have compassion on you. He will come back and pick up the pieces from all places that you were scattered." As a courtesy to my friends that like things wrapped up in a neat package with a bow, I can share the following updates as an inspiration for you. I continue to work every day on rebuilding relationships that I was careless with in the past. Just as my own father did with me when I was 7 years old, I have prayed the prayer of salvation with my 3 children, and I know that we will spend eternity together. My job now is to be present with them and be available to work through any of the harmful effects that I caused while in my addiction. I claim Proverbs 22:6 over their lives when the devil tries to attack me with guilt, which says, "Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it." I remember I did pour light and truth into them before I gave my sanity away, and they now truly have become incredible sources of love and forgiveness in my life. My dad is still my hero. He inspires me with his faith and trust in our Lord, and his willingness to share the true gospel of Jesus Christ from a self-proclaimed flawed messenger. It's truly an inspiration for me. He is still my giant slayer and will always be an earthly safe place of refuge. My mother is precious to me as well and has given me so much. She too is a fellow believer, and I look forward to having never-ending mother-daughter time with her in heaven. The more I discover about her story, the more I realize how we all just do the best that we can at the time. And she is an incredibly strong woman. I also now have a healthy co-parenting relationship with my children's father and have made amends with many other loved ones, friends, and even former adversaries. I don't close my amends list, but rather I keep it taken care of on a daily basis. In addition to keeping short amends accounts, it's imperative that I work my program daily, lest I get complacent. For me, this includes setting aside time daily for prayer and meditation, staying plugged in with Celebrate Recovery, and serving others that are still caught up in their own personal darkness. Last but not least, I strive daily to celebrate my champion here on earth. My husband, Dwayne, is my true partner. He's the one who has seen me at my absolute worst, and yet continues to stand with me in the fires of recovery. I love him for all he is and all that he does, and in a world that takes the easy way out, he has chosen to pour love into our relationship daily, and he is beyond a blessing. So, Celebrate Recovery came to me at my lowest point in my life, when I was headed for death. If not my own death, then someone else's through my careless actions. Celebrate Recovery continues to remind me that Christ's church is not supposed to be a hotel for saints, but rather a hospital for sinners. And I'll say that again. Celebrate Recovery continues to remind me that Christ's church is not supposed to be a hotel for saints, but rather a hospital for sinners. I was one of the worst, and I left a path of destruction a mile wide, all in the name of pride, double-minded Christianity, and self-reliance. I tried to do things my way, but get a rubber stamp approval for God, and it almost killed me. Celebrate Recovery's order of steps and call to keeping a consistent and honest inventory give a pathway that not only leads to the Father, but celebrates Him along the way. Celebrate Recovery was a starting point and a catalyst for my healing, and I find my glorious purpose in welcoming the newcomer to a better world and way of thinking. We cannot keep what we aren't willing to give away. And my gift of sobriety is one that the hurting world desperately needs. So I have made the choice to radiate through all my broken pieces without allowing guilt and shame to dim that light given by my Heavenly Father, my Papa. So let me end with this today. I tell you today, my friend, that redemption is not just good news.
Right.
It is the best news ever.
Amen.
You are never too far away. You are never too dirty. You're never too lost or too broken to turn around and come home.
Amen.
Thank you.
Amen.